Hey, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Total Financial Hour. My name is Jeff Gerard. I'm sitting in for Arif Halaby today. Thought we'd give him the day off. I'm joined by Logan Halaby. How you doing, Logan?
Good afternoon, folks. Glad to be here as always.
Folks, we're going to talk about your family's finances today. What a surprise, right? You're here to hopefully learn something about some surprises that you might have not expected in retirement. So many times we sit with folks, Logan, and you've seen this probably time and again, where people have these misconceptions about retirement. And one of those is about the taxation of their retirement dollars. And I think those misnomers are quite costly. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and unpack some of those ideas because I think it's kind of timely with some of the reform out there.
And also, given that today is everyone's favorite time of the day,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
haven't seen your CPA friends for the past month, they've just been locked in their room for 12 plus hours getting all the taxes. Today's tax day, folks.
Poor guys and gals. I mean, I say it in tongue in cheek. I mean, I'm sure they're very happy to have all the business, but their lives shut off completely for about 2 to 3 months out of this part of the year. So it's kind of interesting. But one of the things that I find is interesting is, we see articles. Logan and some of our friends here at the Post have helped us kind of put some of this together. I am so shocked that we still have a lot of folks that are planning for retirement and they're not taking into account the after-tax dollars, the spendable dollars that are going to come from their retirement streams, whether it's an IRA, a 401k, 403b. We're going to talk about what those are, pension, Social Security. All of these things have at least some type of tax consequence, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be taxed. It just means that you have to have a conversation with the IRS before you can take those dollars out scot-free.
And it's something like when you go to the store and there's something on sale for $9.99. Well, most of the time you're not actually going to be paying $9.99. You've got to add the
Right.
income tax. It's going the opposite direction when it comes to your retirement, where if you've got something that can be taxed, so if your Social Security is supposed to be $1,000 a month, well, if it's taxable, which depending on your situation, your other sources of income, it could mean that what you thought was $1,000 is actually going to be less.
That's right. Let's start there, Logan, because you're bringing up a great point. So many times we're seeing that people believe that their Social Security income is completely tax-free. Well, Logan, as you hit it on the head, it
It sometimes is, but if you make too much, suddenly Uncle Sam is a little more interested in taking money back.
And that's the key. It really depends on your multiple sources of income. Now, by and large, for the folks that are earning about the national average, which is about $1,100, $1,200, depending on where you are in the country, and Social Security is your only and your primary source of income, you're probably not going to have. And I say probably because there's probably a rare instance out there somewhere where someone did have to pay tax on their Social Security. But by and large, you're not going to have to really settle up with Uncle Sam on that. But there are thresholds. So if you have other income sources, let's say you have money that you've put away as a result of working, you had earned income, and you were putting money into a retirement plan at work, whether it was a 401k if you worked for a for-profit company, or let's say you were a teacher, you worked for a research facility or a school or a hospital, you had a 403b. Some people that work for municipalities, they have 457s. That's just where it's found in the IRS code, right? You might also know it as deferred comp. But those dollars that you took in and said, oh, I'm not going to spend those before you give me my paycheck, I want you to put it over into that retirement plan. Likewise, if you took a traditional IRA out and you put money and you set it aside in there, what have we done, Logan? We've just deferred the taxes. We didn't avoid really anything at this point because we have to settle up in the future.
Correct. And those funds that you deferred and put away to the future for taxation then could be combined with your Social Security and result in some more taxation there than you were expecting.
And the way they calculate it, folks, it's not really that they say, okay, your Social Security is going to be taxed at 50% or 85%, because, by the way, those are the percentages that they count your Social Security. But what they do say is this. In my example, if you have money coming out of a traditional IRA or a 401k, a retirement plan, and you're pulling those monies out in retirement, and that's one of your supplements to your income, your Social Security could be, as Logan said, combined with that, but they take half of it after one threshold. And then if you go above that, if you pull too much money out, I say, hanging quotes too much, but according to the government, if you pull out too much, then they can tax as much as 85. And here's what I mean by that. Logan, great example, $1,000 coming in. It doesn't mean that you're only going to get $500 from it. It just means that 500 of that per month would count towards your overall taxable liability. And if you pulled out even more money, up to 85%, so $850. It's a lot of percentages and numbers, I know, but just know that your Social Security is subject to tax if you have multiple sources of income that exceed the threshold. So keep that in mind, because I can't tell you how many times somebody's building and building in their financial life for a number, a lump sum that they're going to take out in retirement, and they haven't accounted for that after-tax dollar.
And this is definitely impactful as well, because what happens as you get older and you're retired? Do you have kid tax credits anymore from your children?
Negative.
Are you, most of you, going to be still paying down the interest and the principal for your mortgage? Is that if your house is paid off, or
No,
getting closer to
house
there?
is probably paid off in retirement or very close to it.
Are you have work-related deductions from travel or your car expenses? Can those be written off anymore?
Well, I'm retired, so by definition, I don't have those same write-offs.
So sometimes a lot of people are going to be paying more in taxes, at least when it comes to the deductions that they don't have anymore. Suddenly, their taxation plans aren't quite the same as they thought they were.
And that's right, and that's why, we hear so many people talking about diversification of their assets, and I have a diversified portfolio, and I have all these multiple sources of income. Wonderful. I love it. I hope you do that. But I hope you also had somebody doing tax diversification, where you have, when you're earning and you're in your higher earning years for income, you do defer some of those taxes, because look, unless taxes are on sale, hey, you guys, secret, taxes are on sale right now. I'm going to let you know that. I look back at my great-grandfather. He earned his income, the majority of his income, back in the 50s, 60s. He's since passed, but he earned income back when 60s, 70s, 80s, the years, the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, when taxes were on the rise. So it made sense for him. My wife's grandparents did the same thing when they were small business owners. Back when you could only put in, I think it was like $1,500 or $2,000. That's not life-changing to defer, but that was the maximum you could put into an IRA. But guess what they did? They maxed one out for him, one for his wife. Every year, one for him, one for his wife. And when they were doing that, they were deferring the taxes for later years. But mind you, they were in a very high income tax bracket, not only because of where the government was with their schedules for taxes, but they were also earning a pretty decent income. So it made sense for them to find tax shelters. And now they're enjoying the benefits of being in a lower tax bracket than they were when they were working. But that's not the case for everybody.
If you just look at the political talking and of everyone, and mostly one side, of course, but it's not hard to see that. What is one group saying that they're going to do as soon as they get power, which could be this year, could be 2 years, could be whatever. If I could predict the future in that realm, I'd be...
Well, yeah, I'd say they were going to raise taxes.
That's been their platform. Agree or not, outside of the politicals of whether you think that's a good idea, it's needed, whatever, it's just going to be happening, and you have to plan for it with your personal life and see what impact that's going to make for you.
Right. I mean, if you think about lending for a second, we're in this era of all-time lows for lending. Do we think rates are going to go much lower? I mean, let's say lending is at 4%, right? It costs you 4% to go out and buy a mortgage. Do we really think it's going to be 1%, 0%? I mean, it could be. There's always room to go down to that floor, but really the trend is, hey, we stay in a low environment and then it kind of goes up and we have an ebb and flow. Right now, taxes are in that low ebb, and we have to take a look at, while taxes are on sale, right? And we've seen this with the reform. Logan, you brought up a great point earlier before the show about your lifestyle, and I want you to talk about that. You said something about inflating your lifestyle or making a change right now while we're in this low tax environment.
Well, a common piece of advice I've heard if you get a promotion or a raise, don't immediately spend that extra money right now. Take that time, live just because you were comfortably living at the previous number, and then you got a 10% raise. Well, take that 10%, that can go to paying down debts, saving for retirement, whatever you've got the same thing right now with the taxes.
Right.
Depending on how much you're saving, this might be a good time to talk to your CPA. Maybe not now because they're probably pulling their hair out, but
right.
Next month, and see what you can do for planning this year. Get a proposal or an idea of how much you're going to be earning and saving in taxes compared to last year. throw that towards your debt, towards a Roth or something like that.
Well, and that's a great point also, Logan. The Roth IRA, that's the after-tax version of the traditional IRA, right? When you make $50,000, let's say in my example, and you put $5,000 of your earned income into a traditional IRA, you're only paying taxes on 45,000, right? So you get a reduction in that income. But if you put it into a Roth IRA, you make 50,000, you put 5,000 into a Roth IRA, or even a Roth 401k, a Roth 403b, that means that you don't get the break today, but when do you get the break, Logan?
When you pull it out. If you follow the rules, they've got a couple other catches that apply if you want to pull it out next year or something like that. But
yeah, you probably don't want to do that. You normally want these accounts to season for a period of 5 years or so, and you want to be over age 59 and a half in most cases. And I want to caution you, when you hear us talking about these in general, these are generalities. We are not tax advisors. We do understand how tax law works and how it coincides with your retirement, and that's why we bring it up, because I think it is one of the conversations that gets left out. Again, to my point earlier, that you're so worried and concerned about building and saving and throwing the fish back, you didn't realize which bucket you were throwing it in. Was it the taxable or the tax deferred bucket? And while we have this low tax environment and we have the ability to have, like Logan said, a raise, or let's say we get this break right through tax reform, a lot of us are saying, hey, great, we're going to get a little bit more on our tax returns next year. There's a little bit less outgo each month on the taxable side. My liabilities are lower. Does that make sense to defer to the unknown in the future? Well, we know what taxes are now. Maybe, like Logan said, you pay some debt down, right? You don't carry so much debt into retirement. Let's say you put a little bit more in your retirement account. But what if you say, look, working with my tax advisor, my CPA, I have an opportunity right now. Normally, I'm putting as much as I can into a deferred scenario. I'm deferring the taxes to the future. But what if this year my income, my lifestyle, nothing changes except I get to put a little bit on the post-tax side, on the tax-free side, where it says, hey, I've got an opportunity where I normally put X amount into my traditional 401k. I'm going to put some in my Roth 401k at work, or my Roth IRA this year instead of just my traditional, right?
and it's also maybe a good opportunity if you have an IRA from an old job or 401k, similar thing where you've had it for a while. You can convert it to a Roth. I mean, you got to pay the taxes now, and whether or not that makes sense, that's all what your situation is. Then I can't read your mind from out here. And if it makes sense, you can shift the funds over, follow the rules, do it properly, away from something that's going to be tax deferred. You can defer. You were deferring the taxes till now when you pay it. Get it to the Roth side when, like we said, the taxes are at a discount, and that can be a smart move as well.
You know, especially if you're working with the refund. I love that idea, Logan, because it's something that I think we forget about, that we can take some of our already traditional pre-tax dollars, convert them to post-tax. Like Logan said, you're going to have to pay the taxes on it. But let's say you have $100,000 in your traditional IRA or your 401k, Logan, and you want to convert all of that. What's going to happen if you do that all this year?
You're going to be jumping up a few tax brackets, and Uncle Sam's going to be happy because they get paid now.
Yeah, the government's going to love that, because now, let's say you made $50,000 and you convert $100,000. That's your $50,000 in income. $100,000 gets added to your tax bill. Like you made an extra $100,000. You said, no, but wait, I just converted it. I didn't want to be in partnership with the government forever. They say, no problem, just pay us forward. Pay us right now. But what's another strategy, Logan?
You can break it up over the course of a couple of years, do 10% a year or something like that until it's equalized or it's at a point where you're comfortable.
Right.
Taking advantage of other tax strategies, whatever makes sense with your situation. If you've got a loss or you are eligible for some deduction or tax credit that helps you out, then those kinds of things could make sense to take advantage of that. Again, if it makes sense for you, it's one of those things that's possible to do. It's your decision, and got to consult some tax experts if that's what makes sense for you.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, because this is your tax situation. This is a living, breathing thing, right? Every single year, your tax situation, your retirement situation, your income situation, this can all change. Doesn't mean that it will, but it doesn't also mean that you should just stick with the status quo. Just like, oh, well, my mom always said, or my dad always said, do this, do this, do this, and never waver from that. Well, that may have been great advice for them, for their era. Heck, it may have been great for you 5 years ago, but maybe you're making a considerable amount more money. Or hey, like Logan said, Maybe you've taken a loss. Maybe you have a way to absorb some extra income. You say, well, gosh, I don't have any extra income to absorb. Now you can look at some of those retirement assets and convert them over to a post-tax scenario. Checking with your tax advisor, I think that's a great idea. But sometimes, and don't be surprised, you'll have to bring up, the good questions to ask.
And really, this is something, like Jeff said, where it's a living thing. It's going to need reevaluation, checking in, making sure it's all makes sense. If you had everything laid out and perfectly planned 6 months ago, well, guess what? Things changed. So maybe if everything changed and the entire tax code was all changed, probably means your tax and financial plan is going to need to be reevaluated to some extent.
Yeah, and the likelihood of that is a bit slimmer than some of the code additions. It doesn't seem like they really take anything out, does it? It seems like they're just adding and adding, and the book gets thicker and thicker. But to your point, Logan, this is something that you should reevaluate at a midpoint in the year. And I would say let's start looking at, and you have some great ideas, are when it comes to a raise. If you have a raise, that could be one of the things that helps you kind of shift in this direction where you're adding more money to your retirement account. Because every year we want you to add at least 1% of a contribution. So if this year you're contributing 5%, you say, gosh, I can only afford to part with 5% because I live on 95% of my income, and then I have to pay tax on that, and then my take home is basically it's all accounted for. Great. So yesterday you were okay with living without that extra raise. Take that, and I want you to increase your savings by that 1 percentage point. So if you made 5% deferral, I want you to defer 6 this next year going forward. And look, you can start now. You can start anytime during the year. Talk with your human resources people and see, how do I up my contribution with my retirement plan at work? And if you don't have a retirement plan at work and you're saying, look, I want to start saving for retirement on my own, there are individual retirement plans like we talked about, individual retirement accounts or IRAs, traditional Roth. That just depends on the taxes. So you can open those up at a bank. You can open those up with us at Total Financial Solutions. We can help you with that. And that's actually one of the strategies where we say if you're putting money at risk in the stock market through your employer plan, you're going to want to have some hedging, some safety there as well to kind of balance out that teeter-totter, so to speak, of risk when it comes to your retirement account. So we are focused more on the safer side of things where we don't gamble your money in the stock market. We don't put it in a place where it can go up and down. We work with companies that offer guarantees and reliable retirement income. So if you put money into an IRA with us, there are guarantees built in so that the money is actually there when you need it.
And the other guaranteed risk that people don't always think of or know about when they think of risk is the fees. If you are guaranteed every time you're paying that percentage of what the account value is or per transaction, however they've worked it out, that's a guaranteed risk that you have to start from backwards, earn enough to get back to that level that you were at before, and then keep going in order to just break even.
You're so right. And this is something else I think people forget. Putting money into a retirement account at work doesn't mean like, hey, the employer they fronted all the fees for us. They covered the fees, no problem. There is actually fee sharing between the employer and the employee. Now, the percentage or the share on your side versus what the employer puts in, that can vary depending on where you work. But I can tell you that it's not free. Somebody has a Super Bowl ad or a banner or a web page because they do charge fees. So somebody's doing it. I just want to make sure that you know that it's coming from somewhere and not from thin air. You're probably paying some fees in there, but again, this is probably like the just the cost of having the opportunity to have somebody do that for you and manage that for you. Remember, when you're earning money, your lifestyle is supported by your ability to earn that dollar. When it comes to retirement, your lifestyle is fully funded by what you were able to amass and what you can pull from those dollars. Having some level of guarantee and surety and reliable income, I think that's pretty important.
It is, and it's one of those things where there's certain things you can't control. You don't know what the president or Congress is going to do next week, next year. Things you can control, those are what you can work on focusing, and those are things that you can prepare for effectively.
Yeah, well said, Logan. Well said. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with your family's finances. Some other plans out there that you think might not be taxed, you're not sure. We've got some of that for you and more on the Total Financial Hour. My name is Jeff Gerard, along with Logan Hallaby. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
Life's not meant to feel complacent. It's meant to make you feel alive. The youth ministry at the Church on the Way Santa Clarita believes that students can belong to the group where we will help them believe they have a purpose in Christ and become all that He has created them to be. We want to see God's power come alive in our generation. We love meeting new people, so come hang out with us. Doors open at 6 p.m. and service starts at 7 every Wednesday night. For more information about the Church on the Way Santa Clarita, including service times and what's happening through the end of the year, visit tcotwsc.org.
City of Hope is a world leader in cancer research and treatment. And there's a City of Hope community practice location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita benefits from City of Hope's compassionate care and renowned clinical expertise. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Your hometown station.
Hey, we're back on your hometown station, KHTS. I'm Jeff Gerard along with Logan Hallaby. This is the Total Financial Hour, continuing with your family's finances. Okay, Logan, let's get into some of the plans that are out there. We talked earlier about IRAs, 401ks, 403bs. People say, gosh, what are all those things? TSPs. Break down some of those for us, Logan, if you would, please.
Certainly. So the government loves its TLAs, or three-letter acronyms, and they've got IRS, which we all know of as our friendly neighborhood tax collectors.
That's right.
But then built in under the category of retirement, there's a couple different options. Some of them with the numbers, that just refers to you go to IRS code section 401k, and that talks about what employees of a for-profit business, how they can defer money for retirement and not pay the taxes now. A few years later, the employees of nonprofits, schools, hospitals, a few other places along those lines wanted one too. That's where we got the 403B, because a few pages down in the tax code, 403. A few years even later on, that's how you get the 457, which a lot of people also know as the deferred comp, and that covers employees of state, local, county, different kind of government facilities.
Why didn't they come up with a TLA for the 401k?
They ran out of time on that one.
Yeah, is that what they did? Okay. But they didn't know that they needed these cool names, right?
Well, IRA certainly works well enough. The individual retirement account.
Yeah.
So, which means it's attached to a single person with a single Social Security, birthday.
Yeah.
Can't share one with your wife or spouse. Can't have one for a business. It's all shared.
Yeah, so
only
there's
for one
the
person.
individual retirement account means like we've had clients say, "Oh, can my spouse and I both be on that IRA?" Well, there's no such thing as a joint IRA. It's an individual retirement account. And believe it or not, Logan, it does have a number. It's a 408.
408.
There you go. So all these TLAs, 408s, 401ks, we're having a lot of fun here. We're kind of silly like that. We were talking before the break about converting some of your traditional IRAs and 401ks, your retirement accounts that are pre-tax. Why is this so important? I'm going to throw this out there. If you are staying in the state of California, if you plan to retire in the state of California, and what Logan brought up earlier is the tax climate, the political climate, we've seen that there are trends of increase in taxes over time. We've been kind of in a stagnant environment lately, but I can tell you that this is the known right now, folks. This is the known. if you plan on staying in California and you have a clock that's ticking and you say, I'm going to retire in 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, I want you to take that schedule and I want you to start converting your dollars every single year. Maybe not the same in proportion every single year, but in Logan's example earlier, if you have $100,000 in your retirement account and it's in a pre-tax account, I don't care which one of those TLAs it's in, if it's a pre-tax account, you're going to want to start moving some of that over, working with your financial team, working with your CPA, your tax advisor. Be guided by them, but I want you to bring up at least the conversation. Now, they may say, look, Joe, this isn't going to work because you're already making so much over here, you don't have enough write-offs. If you do this, you're going to pay a lot more in taxes than you did last year. And you might say, I'm okay with that because I know what I'm going to pay today. I don't know what I'm going to pay in the future. So that might be one of the, the bullets to bite, so to speak, now because you know basically what kind of bite you're taking.
And when we're saying that a Roth is exempt from taxes, we're just talking about the income taxes.
Correct.
If you pull money from your Roth and then go to the grocery store, and you're still going to have to pay the sales tax on that. Go to the gas station, still got the gas tax at the pump, and property tax and every other tax that we've got in the state. But income tax has been the largest one for both federally and state. So far, that trend may be changing in the future with political, as they look for more opportunities, but just don't want to have any confusion over that.
Logan, I'm going to probably give you the rest of the afternoon off because I'm going to have you develop a bill, right? You're going to develop a new account that is not only income tax free, but when you pull the dollars from that account, we're going to have a special debit card so that you don't pay tax on the groceries at the store, the pump, anything like that. Can you put something like that together?
Would this account for when the business had to pay the gas tax to get the groceries to their store so that they had to raise the price to account for that?
Man, you're too smart.
That sounds like it'd be a little more difficult to keep track of than...
Let's just keep it simple, shall we? But going back to where you're going to retire is ultimately indicative of how you might retire, right? So if you're in one of the highest taxed states, you choose the coast. We can kind of see who's in the pole position there of who pays the most taxes on either coast. Look somewhere just off the coast. Maybe you're going to look a little bit in the Midwest. Maybe you're going to look to the, I don't know, how many are there, Logan? 12, I think 11 or 12 income tax-free states or tax-favored states. You might want to look at that. Part of this conversation is going to be had with your financial team, but really take a look at some of the states where you don't have the state income tax. If you're at the top tax bracket for state in California, let's just say as an example, and you retire somewhere where there's no income tax, you could be seeing a 10 to 13% or more of a raise, right? So if you're planning on living on $100,000 a year, of course you have to settle up with the Fed. Hey, no one's saying anything about that. But let's say you have to pay 25% in federal income tax. Then you have another, let's just say 10% for the state. You're giving up $35,000 of income. You have to pull $100 from your account. That means that goes away forever, and it's never going to go to work for you and earn interest again. But 35 went off. And look, we love roads, we love our infrastructure, we love all that stuff. But my gosh, it's almost like you get punished the better you do, the more you save.
And the states and other places that have no income tax, they still need to earn revenue somehow to run and to operate the state. Doesn't mean if they're not have the income tax, usually it means they've got the property tax or sales tax that might be a little higher than you're used to. But again, we're used to a lot of taxes here, so.
Well, you'll be missing the sunshine tax if you go to the Midwest, that's for sure. Because if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes, it'll change. So back to my plan earlier, take a look at how many years you have until retirement. I want you to start working towards that. Doing those conversions, that can really make the difference because now, and we have, I love when Arif tells a story about his clients that he's worked with over the years that have converted so much of their assets systematically over time that they have, I think it's over $80,000 of tax-free income. Now, they have other sources of income that are taxable, but tax-free income that they will have for the rest of their life, guaranteed, tax-free, income tax-free anyway. They still have to pay the bread tax and
Right.
gas tax. But isn't that a great feeling to know that they can move anywhere in the country, virtually speaking, and say, yeah, I mean, we don't have to worry about that burden because where they're pulling their money from is tax favored and tax free accounts. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
And an important part of this consideration is knowing how long you're going to be living, when you're planning on retiring. There's lots of tools out there. If you just Google, what's my life expectancy, or
Yeah.
how long would I be in retirement?
Can I Google when will I die? You think they'll know?
Give it a few years. They'll probably have it figured out.
I'll ask Facebook maybe.
Looking back a few years ago, in 1900, the average life expectancy was 47 years old.
Wow.
There was 100,000 Americans who lived to age 85
Okay, 100,000 out of how many?
out of 72 million people. So
Wow.
today, we're at about 5-ish times the amount of people with over 300 million people. Now we're at over 5 million people past age 85.
Wow. So we're living longer, basically, which means we have to have what?
More money.
That's right. Or we have to have money that does what for us? That lasts forever. So if you say, here's $1 million, Logan, I'm going to ask you, if I could give you $1 million and you can just do whatever you want with it, manage it how you will, spend it all tomorrow, doesn't matter, but this is all the money you're going to get for the rest of your life. Or I say, how about I give you $10,000 a month, tax-free, for the rest of your life? Which one would you take? Now, we're a couple years apart. I don't know if you guys can tell on the radio here, but I have a little bit more gray than you, Logan. But what would you do? I know what I would do.
Well, at my age, the $10,000 a month is definitely looking a little bit more appealing for someone who's younger.
Okay.
But is it transferable? Can I pass it on?
Nope.
Nope. It's like
Nope.
the lottery
That's it.
system.
That's it. That's all you
Okay.
get to do.
They both have their appeal, but guarantees, consistency, that's going to be a lot more important for most people, especially when you're talking about 50, 60 years. If you're retiring at age 50, there's a pretty decent chance that you're going to be living till age 100 or 80s, 90s. Are your finances ready for that?
I know it's almost like, gosh, dare I retire? Because what if I live too long? And those are some of the things that we look at when we're entering, the golden years. I mean, it used to be that the scary part was, gosh, did I make enough money? Did I save? And then it was, did I save enough money? And then it's, did I earn enough interest? And now, do I have a big enough bucket? When can I retire? Right? We get those the clients come in and they say, can I retire? And they're shocked. They're shocked that they can't. Some are shocked that they can, but most of them are shocked that they can't, because they think, in some cases, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, but it's interesting that when they're so good at what they do, MBAs, CPAs, you throw the letters after your name, smart people, but they don't know how much they have to save for retirement. And so what happens is they get to a place where they say, I've spent enough time doing this. I'm tired. I'm bored. I want to retire next year. Gosh, I want to start playing some golf. I want to travel. But they don't have the funds or the income streams to support that, and they have to continue working. That's kind of a sad thing. But on the other side of the coin, the longer you work, potentially the healthier you might be, because being sedentary, that's not real healthy anymore, especially in retirement, especially older. Working, making money, that means you're not out spending money. That's kind of a cool thing too. That's kind of the new retirement, I think, is a bit of a hybrid or a semi-retirement where people retire, Logan. They consult, they do something in their field, they stay current, they stay relevant, and they're still earning money while they're doing it.
Working part-time, they invest in they always wanted to open a business, so they do something on the side. That's great. Keeps you occupied, gives you something to do. And even better, from the financial people here, is it means that you have less pressure on your retirement accounts to meet everything. Even if you're working part-time and you've managed to pull in $1,000 a month, only working a few hours a week, doing something you like, guess what? That's over $1,000 a month times 12 times, if you do it for 10 years, that adds up quick. And that means that you're going to be able to have your other funds grow. Don't stress them out as much. You're going to be in a lot better shape.
Well, and I think what some people do anymore, and I think it's the wiser thing to do, at least economically speaking, is they're letting their Social Security defer, right? Because you can take it as early as 62, and generally in most cases, and you can defer it, which means that every year you don't take it, it increases. So if At 62, it was supposed to be $1,000, let's just say. By the time you defer it out to age 70, gosh, it could be $1,500, $1,300 a month. That's not a bad living right there if you consider that that's one part of your income. And just by waiting and working in the meantime and still saving dollars for your retirement, that's kind of a cool strategy. So letting that defer out and grow so that your payout's higher, that works in your favor, obviously, because the math is going up. And then as you're working, you're still contributing to your retirement accounts. That's a nice thing, too. So you're building that up. But then you're also, like Logan said, taking some of the pressure off. You know, I think 100 is the new 80. I mean, my aunt is going to be, God willing, 102 years old this year. She's been retired the entire time I've known her. The entire time. That's a long time. So I'm up there.
And this is something where we're probably going to keep getting better. We've seen how life expectancy continues to grow as medical science advances. We're learning a bit more about nutrition and health and all of that as we're getting more experience. Turns out smoking's bad for you.
No.
Turns out too much alcohol or sugar, fat, whatever you want to. There's always someone yelling that something too much, this, that. Look, moderation is probably a good general rule to follow when it comes to your health and your food. Suddenly, doing the things right might mean you're living 10 years longer.
Yeah.
Not to mention, suddenly something that was medically impossible to treat 10 years ago, now you've got a chance.
That's
What'll
right.
it be in a couple years?
Yeah. The conditions that were out there, that were death sentences, 10, 20 years ago, the medical advances have really caused us to have a lot more pressure, even on ourselves, but also look at Social Security, right? They were expecting people to retire at 62 and die at 63 or whatever the number was. It was very similar to that. They built systems back in the days that were built on very short life expectancies relative to today, right? So people are living 20, 30, 40 years longer than they were projected to 100 years ago, 50 years ago, in fact, because of some of the lifestyle changes that we've made. So that said, I want you to start making sure that you have a plan that you're working towards guaranteed sources of income. Multiple sources are wonderful. Maybe you have money that you're pulling from a pension, money that you're pulling from your retirement accounts. Maybe you have one or two or more rental properties. Maybe you have an interest in a business, or you actually have a small business, and maybe you do some consulting. Those are wonderful. The ones that don't require you to trade your time and get up and go to work every day, those are the kind that I really like. So pension, Social Security, drawing from your savings, whether that's your money that you've saved on your own or your retirement accounts, those are wonderful things to have. So make sure you're building those. I want you to have multiple sources. If you can get 5 sources of income, and I didn't learn this on my own, I had to learn it from Arif, but at least 5 sources, that's a comfortable place, because then one is not necessarily dependent on the other. So if one day, it's like having a bunch of rental properties, right? Let's say you have 10 rental properties and 9 people go to work tomorrow and they pay their rent, but one of them doesn't. That doesn't mean that everything was rising and falling on one property. That means that 9 other people went to work and, hey, maybe you made a little bit less money this month, but you still made your obligations. The same idea comes to your retirement income streams. If you have Social Security and there's a chance, it could happen, but somebody reneges on their promise, or a pension system, which we've seen that's in crisis right now and has been for some time, or the stock market's up and down and your funds are in a place where they could go backwards, you at least have something to balance out some of those other ebbs and flows. So you watch out, make sure you have not everything coming from one place, because we've seen it time and again where, United Airlines, Logan, name a couple other if you can.
Enron, we've seen multiple states and cities that have been going bankrupt and having problems there. As much as we want and hope that nothing bad happens, trying to be a little more realistic and looking at the writing on the wall, the pension systems have been having problems for a while, partly related to the income and the age of suddenly everyone's living longer. They didn't plan on it back when you started working for the city of LA or wherever.
Right.
10, 20, 30 years ago, they had their projections, and with, 7 or 8% rate of return, they were thinking they were going to get
right.
every single year. Turns out that it didn't quite happen. Plus, you're only supposed to be retired for 5 years, not 25 that we've been seeing in people.
And I wish these managers of these big pension funds, I mean, and I say this kind of I don't mean to sound like I'm diminishing their role, but it's almost like the logic. How does math work in a linear fashion when you have it in a place where the returns, as Logan said, these are unrealistic conditions that they're looking for. Now, look, maybe 20 years ago everything was fantastic, or maybe it wasn't. But when they built these plans, these pension plans, or wherever they're investing these big pools of dollars that are going to pay people out, that they promise to pay out for the rest of their lives, my goodness, there's no guarantee how long someone's going to live or how long they're going to have to afford that paycheck. So they build it off of this place that says, oh, we think we're going to make 8% this year. Gosh, Logan, how much are you going to make this year? Do you know?
If I could know, I'd be in a much better position.
Right. We'd all be rich because I'm your friend and you'd at least tell me. So
I'd give you something.
thank you. Just some insight, just some wisdom. So when you give 100% of your financial life and your financial retirement and your ability to have a lifestyle in retirement, you are giving all of the power to a municipality, to a pension system, to an employer, to one place. I think it's a dangerous place. I don't care if it's a job, a city, a state, any type of government. Take as much control as you can in your own hands, and you will be in a much better position financially speaking. Logan, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I urge you to stick with us. We're going to wrap up this hour, do a quick recap, and we're going to have something else interesting for you here. The Total Financial Hour on your hometown station. This is KHTS.
Tucked away in Canyon Country is an upscale, intimate, unforgettable dining experience. Taste the wonders of Italy at Piccola Trattoria. This gem of a restaurant is our valley's best-kept secret, but not for long. The secret will be out once you've tasted their homemade pastas, pizzas, ossobuco, or their scrumptious sausage, fresh seafood, or steaks. Better save room for dessert. Your table will be fighting over who gets the final bite of their heavenly tiramisu. Piccola Trattoria, off Sierra Highway on Dolan Way. Your unforgettable dining experience.
Your hometown station.
It can happen at any time. Breaking news in the Santa Clarita Valley. KHTS has you covered. Brush fires, emergency freeway closures, police activity. If it's happening in the SCV, we'll let you know about it with our breaking news coverage. Keep a channel preset to your hometown station, KHTS.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station. Hometown. Your hometown station. 98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Hey, welcome back to the show, Total Financial Hour. I'm your host, Jeff Gerard, standing in for Arif Halaby today. He's got the day off, along with Logan Halaby. The show is brought to you by Total Financial Solutions. We are talking about your family's finances. Namely, we're really looking at preparing for retirement in a fashion that you're going to be set up to win. No matter where you retire in the country, no matter what the tax situation, no matter what, I want you to win. That's the focus of Total Financial Solutions, to help you win. You have done your job making yourself rich, right? Your job, your experience, your education, that made you a lifestyle, afforded you a lifestyle. That is what's going to make you rich, is your income. We are going to help you keep from going broke. Any money that you've saved with us, you're going to have guarantees, reliability, and it's going to be predictable. And that's, I think, the most important part of having a solid foundation in your retirement, is that you have something that you can count on. And maybe you've got some play money over here. Maybe you've got some more speculative money on the side, but at least the money that you and your family are going to count on is guaranteed for the rest of your life. That's super important. Logan, let's do a little recap. We talked a lot about the TLAs. What did that stand for again?
The 3-letter acronym.
3-letter acronyms. I just learned something today. Thank you very much. IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, those are all places where you can find the name of your retirement account in the IRS code. They give it those names, those numbers, because they've got to put it somewhere, and they just call it that. So that's kind of an interesting thing. You might also know your account at work if you're a teacher as a TSA, right? A tax sheltered annuity or a tax sheltered account. That's the same as a 403b. They just gave it kind of a cool name. Deferred compensation, that's another name for a 457. Now you might have a B or an H or a D or something in there in a parentheses. That just means that it's in a subsection of 457 or 403b, 403a. So all those things are just places where you can find it in the code. They all, for intents and purposes, behave exactly the same. They have limits that you're allowed to put in. I think if you're under 50, you can put up to about 18,000 or so in some of those plans. Some of them say a little bit less. The government gives you this big of a ceiling, but the way that it's structured at your employer, you might have some rules where it says you're not allowed to put in as much because of the way it's set up. So you always want to check with your human resources department, check with your employer and say, hey, how much can I put into this? And then here's the other thing. If your employer is matching funds, of you putting money in, meaning you have to put money in to get that match, what do we want you to do, Logan?
It's essentially going to be free money. Where else can you put in $1,000 and have it right then equal $2,000? Is there anywhere you can get that interest rate? Because I would love to be right in line behind you.
That's right. We'd be in line together. So if you're putting in a dollar into your retirement account and your employer's giving you $1, up to a certain point, I want you to go in and I want you to max that out, at least up to the match. If you can afford to put more, great. We have some strategies for that. But at least put in, and some people say, Logan, we've heard this so many times, I can't afford to save for retirement. But they have to at least go and get that free money that you're talking about.
And really, if you can't afford to save for retirement now, will you be able to in 10 years, 20 years? What point will you suddenly be able to do that? And what's going to happen if you don't?
Yeah, because it's always the old adage, if I only made $4,000 a month, gosh, I remember that. If I only made $4,000, life would change, right? And then, no, it's not 4, it's 5,000, because once you make 5, then
that's the magic number.
Yeah, that's the magic number there. And then the number just magically keeps creeping up because what do? We make a little bit more money and we take on another expense, or now we can catch up, right? Now we're going to be okay. Now we can send little Jimmy to college. Now we can afford those extra things. Oh, that second car, the third car.
Jimmy has a brother now. Suddenly, 2.
So these are things where you have to look and say, do I want to back myself into this guarantee of having to pay these expenses, or do I want to take a little bit off the top and say, I'm going to put into my retirement account? I'll challenge you to find a time when it doesn't make sense to save money. Send me a message. Say, hey, I can't afford it. I bet I can show you how. All right? Send us a message. You can go to TFS Wealth, or you can go to 888-99-RETIRE, or you can go to 99retire.com, and you can send us a message there. It takes us to our website, fill out a little form, send us a question. We'd love to hear from you. Sometimes we even answer it on the air, but you can stay anonymous if you like. Looking back at strategies for converting from pre-tax, remember all these accounts, all these 401ks and IRAs, by and large, these are pre-tax accounts. You're earning money, you make $1,000, and let's say you take $100 and you put it in that account. That was before you paid taxes. Right? So you're going to have to settle up with Uncle Sam at some point. Do you want to do that now when the taxes are known, or do you want to do that in the future when taxes are what? Unknown.
Probably going to be higher.
Yeah, I would say they're going to be higher.
In some ways, it's like looking at your car. You can change the oil now, and you know it's going to be at an X cost. Or you could wait and then see what the cost is going to be next year. But how many times can you do that before you start to have other problems?
That's right. So taking the known into account, I think, is probably the smartest thing to do. And look, you don't have to put everything in a post-tax scenario. You can put some in the pre-tax, but remember, at some point, if you ever want to get out of partnership with the government, because that's what you're in. Every time you put a dollar into an account, and I heard this recently, you are only obligated to pay tax one time on the money that you earn. Where you put it after you pay your taxes, that will determine whether you pay taxes again. So you are only obligated to pay one time.
I think the IRS does take donations if you'd like to pay extra, but that's not what you have to do.
there's actually a box for that. If you want to just send a little bit more to the government, you can do that. That's kind of a cool box.
How nice of them.
I don't know anybody that actually checks that box, but do you? I don't know anybody.
No, I'm fine with a...
And if you did, don't tell me, at least not on the air. So looking at post-tax scenarios, remember tax diversification, that's so huge. It's not just about where you're pulling your income from, but it's how the government looks at those dollars. Do they say every dollar that you pull out and all of the interest that you've made over the years, that's taxable? Or do you get to say, hey, the money that I've put in is never taxed again, just the interest. That's tax favored, right? Or the money I've put in and any interest that I earn, that's all tax-free. That's kind of a nice thing. So you want to have either most of it on the post-tax side or tax-favored. That's going to be really the key, I think, to helping you. And remember, if you are systematically converting, that means taking some of your existing accounts that you've deferred the taxes on and you want to start paying it now during the known, you can do that systematically over time, working with your financial team. And then you'll get to a place, like Logan said, where you're comfortable and you have an amount of dollars that's on the other side of the tax equation. Then that gives you the bottom line. So you're not looking at, hey, I've got 1,000 coming in, but I can only spend 700 because I had to give some to Uncle Sam.
And I don't know of anyone who's been able to successfully retire on accident, except maybe if they win the lottery or something like that. They've got the uncle way out of town they've never met who...
The rich uncle, that's right.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless you've got one of those and you can guarantee that, which it's pretty hard to guarantee winning the lottery, you're going to have to be able to do it on purpose if you want to be able to have a successful retirement that works for you and what you want to do.
So you can either, because you just gave me an idea, Logan, instead of going out and buying lottery tickets or anything like that, I think I'm just going to invest in those DNA samples, those DNA tests, right? Because recently my cousin found out that she has an uncle, which I guess he would be my uncle too.
Depends on how it works.
I'm not really sure. But man, if only he was like filthy rich and super generous, I think we should just all send those samples out there because maybe somebody's just itching and they're waiting to give their money away. I don't know.
You'll never know what you're going to be able to find there.
That's right. So systematic conversions, I want you to take a look at that. If you're 10 years from retirement, that might be a good schedule for you to start looking with your financial team. Take some of your pre-tax, move it over to post-tax. You'll have to pay the taxes on it, but at least you get to do that in a known environment. Logan, you brought up a great point of fees. Talk real quickly about that being a part of the equation when it comes to planning for retirement.
Fees are really something that can weigh down your account, hold it back. If you ever tried treading water versus treading water with a brick, that brick is going to be your fees. And you can still do it, but it's more difficult, and you have to work harder just to break even every year because the fees don't go away. You have to pay them year 1, year 2, year 20. That's just going to keep going, and it can really add up a lot over the course of your lifetime as you're planning.
That's
Suddenly,
right.
You're looking at a much higher bill, and it's not as efficient because great job that you've earned 5% in terms of interest from the market, but if your fees were 2% or 1%, is a little over 1% is the average.
Mm-hmm.
Multiply that by year after year.
Or did you really earn 5? You maybe really earned 3. That was your net of fees. So I want to caution you, take a look at fees. Now, are you paying a fee or a cost, right? Because there's a difference. With a cost, you get something. A fee is just kind of this arbitrary thing that somebody can charge you without really giving you any value for it. Thanks for listening. I want to urge you to stay tuned next week, this time, this channel on your hometown station. This is the Total Financial Hour. I'm Jeff Gerard. I really thank you for spending the time that you did with us. That's Logan Hallaby. If you have any questions, you can go to tfswealth.com, get a hold of us there, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on the Total Financial Hour.